For the people, by the people.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. We're broadcasting live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. My guest today is a member of the Executive Committee member of the NPP. He is none other than Chathuranga Abeysinghe, who is in his other life a data science professional. And he's a proud product of Sri Jayawardhanapura University. Very good evening to you and welcome to the program, Chathuranga.
Very good evening, Faz.
Thank you for coming. Sri Lanka moves from crisis to crisis for the last several months. We now have another crisis. Apart from the economic crisis, the dollar crisis, the political crisis, the social crisis, the interest rate crisis. I'm fast running out of breath. The interest rate crisis, the fertilizer crisis, the food crisis, the malnutrition crisis, and the pensions crisis. It's absolutely incredible that people who worked all their lives and who are depending on the pensions are not getting them, or it was delayed. That is the height of insensitivity. That's what I think. Let's find out what you think.
So for us, I think even you named all these crises, these were building up for the last 2 decades. It's not something that new that came up.
Yeah.
I think where we went wrong is 3 blunders that was made in 2019 to 20.
Right.
The tax cut,
Yes.
huge tax cut, and then the fertilizer decision,
Yeah.
as well as the holding the currency and eating up our reserves, 5 billion reserves. I think those 3 kind of opened up our wounds.
Yeah.
We had all these issues. I think the audience and the country, the people are now very educated. We never had a plan.
I'm so glad you said that we don't have a plan, because if you took the example of a Basuna and he came to your house to build a kitchen, and if you didn't give him a plan and you said you
whatever.
you will probably end up with a harak madua.
Yes.
And it'll be your fault because you didn't tell him, you didn't give a plan. And how do you feel as a young professional person in Sri Lanka? How do you feel when your president, mine too, stands up and says, almost tongue-in-cheek, I don't have a plan, and quite frankly, I don't have a forward plan?
Yeah, it's the presidents that we had continuously. So not only Ranil Wickremesinghe, who's not a president at all, I don't believe him as our president because
Right.
he has no mandate.
Yeah.
He's like a temporary gatekeeper until next
Funny,
election.
but Cardinal Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, His Eminence, on this program, he said the same thing. He said he agreed with me that it's constitutional and legal,
Yeah.
but he said he didn't vote for Ranil.
Because executive presidency for us is people's power, right? People's
Exactly,
mandate.
people vote.
It's people's vote because it's executive, and that's the highest power in this country.
Yeah.
So 2 things: Ranil Wickremesinghe never had even a vote in Colombo.
Well, he lost his seat,
Yes.
didn't he?
And so this mandate, why I say that I want to look up to him for any plan or anything he says. The mandate was given to Gotabaya Rajapaksa for Saubhagya Dakma. There was so much of promises, so much of things they would do, and 6.9 million people said that. So when majority people says he's our president and this is our new way of work, we all will agree to it because that's democracy, right? But then when people of this country again stood up and said, no, you have to stop, you have to go, and he left, but the parliament is still there. The head went, the body is still there.
Nobody's there.
So we could have, I mean, the ideal that would have happened is after the Aragale, we could have gone into a general election. But however, when as a youth and youngster who has seen this problem, when I say when we don't have a plan for us, is globally, when countries develop, you have to acquire the wealth of the globe. You have to acquire a portion of the market, right? And each country around the world who has made that mark has figured out their competitive advantages. There have been national strategies. The people has worked for it, education has worked for it, government has set the right tone, right support, right technology, right capital. So that's how the industries were built. Now in Sri Lanka, even without government intervention, our public sector has made inroads into the globe. So we have apparel industry, tea, agriculture exports, especially tea and other agriculture exports, IT industry, port services. We have few competitive advantages, including tourism, but we never had a vision. We never had a plan to say this is where we want to go, and this is how we will align our education. This is how we will facilitate investment. This is how we will call for technology. We never heard that from any of our leaders. We thought that after 2009, when the war is over, country can be set on right path. But the corruption led from corruption to corruption. So I don't think this government or Ranil Wickremesinghe or the 135 people has a plan to take this country forward. Without that, for us, which country would help us? Would IMF support us?
Doesn't that mean, Chathuranga Abeysinghe, that the president is not really fit for purpose, because he himself says he doesn't have a plan?
He has a purpose.
But you know, so he told us at the beginning, he told Sri Lanka at the beginning that he has come. Right at the beginning, he said he has come like Churchill in the time of crisis. And he asked the British journalist to learn his history. Well, the same man later went to Parliament and he said that he's like Hitler. I don't know which politician in this world would liken himself to Hitler. After all, we know what Hitler did. You know, we know what he did to those people in the gas chambers and so on. We know how horrible, or what a horrible little man he was. And then he says, tongue-in-cheek, you know, he did a Gerald Ratner-like statement. He said, I have no plan.
Yeah.
I have no forward plan. In that case, me, as a member of the public, I'm thinking that he's not fit for purpose.
Yes.
Because the people elected Gota, and he realized himself that he wasn't fit for purpose, so he went away. So the incoming man should be fit for purpose.
Yeah.
If he's not, do you agree that he should leave his office and go home?
He should leave his office for us, but we have to understand this is about power. So the mandate given to Ranil Wickremesinghe is to safeguard Rajapakshas, make that easy exit, because Rajapakshas are no more in politics, I don't think they have any right to be in politics anymore. But what was the mandate given to him is just see this through. So what they thought is that he can see it through. Now if you see the last 6 months, probably since April for us, we are not paying our debt.
Exactly.
Right. So if you are not paying our debt, right, and he is trying to manage the currency and to bring down fuel, and you know, if people think that the lives have come to, you know, normalcy, I think we are fooling ourselves at this point, because it's a fake what you say, it's a magic, or trying to, you know, disguise us in many ways that everything is okay. Everything is not okay. Even you know, I mean, a lot of people in Colombo who went onto streets probably have their fuel and the factories working and all that, but the majority in the country is suffering.
Absolutely.
SME sector is
But there
going
are
down.
some people who are very short-sighted indeed, because they only point to the lack of queues, but they don't point to the fact that there is fuel rationing.
Yeah.
And they don't point to that. It is a convenient way of forgetting
that we've been rationed. I mean, people talk about free economy, freedom, choice, and all those things, right? Sometimes they say this coupon ක්‍රමයට රට යනවාද කියලා, but we are using a QR code that literally is the same thing, right? But
it's the modern equivalent of that.
Yeah, it's same. What we can't say is, now Ranil Wickremesinghe again has been in office for 6 months. There are few sources for us we can earn dollars, right? One was the thing that we lost with the foreign direct remittances. We were generally getting 7 billion. Now we are at 3.5. Why? The people even outside Sri Lanka need trust first to come in, because we now know Ranil Wickremesinghe is specifically there to support Rajapakshas to safe home. And the exporters in Sri Lanka, we are exporting $1.2 billion a year, a month, but not all the dollars are coming back. Why? If you are a leader, you should be able to call in all the exporters and say, look, we are in crisis. I'm going to give you my word. You need to bring me as much as possible. When you need the dollars, I'm going to sign off on it as a Minister of Finance. But he can't tell that because he knows all the exporters will not trust him. So 2 of the basic stuff that we could have done for the last 6 months is forgone.
Do you detect anything on the lines of that he doesn't really care about anything other than hanging on to his position till the end of Gotabaya Rajapaksa's elected term?
This is more of a personal aspiration he's trying to get at the risk of the country, because he has never got a chance or even close to becoming the president of this country. So he probably have a wild dream that if he hold on to this, that and manage some of the stuff, that people will vote him in when he calls for a presidential election. So this is the fake dream that he lives every day, and he thinks that he can take the route of his uncle. That's the worry that I am having. So when things were going south in 1980s early, when they knew he's not going to get the power that he has, 6 out of 5 in parliament, he pulled out the elections. He took away political parties. He closed on the democracy, and he created violence and chaos in the country that led to a 30-year war. So we are seeing symptoms, scary symptoms through this in terms of Ranil, whether Ranil is trying to say that there will not be any elections. So very carefully we need to watch this, but I don't think the people of this country and the legal system would allow him to do that. So that's our hope. But we are seeing some symptoms.
And tell me, Chathuranga, do you find that all doom and gloom in this country, dollar crisis, economic crisis, social crisis, political crisis, tax rate crisis, interest rate crisis, fertilizer crisis, pensions crisis, and several other crises, egg crisis as well, malnutrition crisis.
Yes.
And they even denied that malnutrition.
It is there.
Somebody was interdicted about this. Anyway, with all this, do you think that the next big hit from this government, I call it a big hit because when they detected that exporters were earning so much of money, they decided to hit them too.
Yes.
So you better watch out. But do you detect any move to giving a haircut on the local bonds and bills?
Yeah, so this has been a debate on the external debt. So basically the bilateral debt, there's a negotiation happening. But when it comes to ISPs, there's a very much clear that there's a discussion on if you are getting them to reduce or give away a certain portion, you need to do a local debt cut as well. So that's like end of this country if that happens at all.
It's like the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, because the banks have given so much of debt to the government. And if any of the current banking system has to take a cut, that will create the biggest crisis that we've ever faced. So what we need to understand is when a country is at a crisis, you can't expect the same people who did the crisis to expect them to recover. Not not any country it has happened. If it's in the crisis of Greece, it was not the same people who took it out.
Indeed.
Any place, even in organization, if you go to crisis like this, right, your revenues have gone, your cash flow is messy and people are leaving, do you ask the same CEO to lead? Because we don't see a difference between Ranil.
But this is in the world, in the real world outside there, in the world of the corporates of this world, of Sri Lanka. But that's not what
this is about power now for us.
It's all about power. Talk about power. Let's go for a quick power break and listen to this evening's headline news. But not before. I remind you that tomorrow on Newsline, we are having an internationally acclaimed journalist and broadcaster on our program, award-winning, with over 40 years of experience. And that person is in Sri Lanka, and that person has agreed to come on our program. Watch Newsline tomorrow at the same time, 8:30. In the meantime, it's now time for that break. We'll see you on the other side.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Summons Acting High Commissioner of Canada to inquire into sanctions imposed on former presidents. Suspect in Police Narcotics Bureau custody dies. No division within Election Commission confirms Chairman Nimal Punchiheva.
ඒ නිවේදනය නිකුත් කළ අවස්ථාවෙන් වගේ පැය කිහිපයකින් මම හිතන්නේ ඉවත් කරගෙන තියෙනවා. කොහොම නමුත් ඔහු ඒ එන්නලා ඒ පිළිබඳව විමසීමක් කිරීමට අපි කටයුතු කරනවා.
Public Administration Secretary's letter on election cash bonds recalled. NEC prepares to question Secretary. Nidahas Janata Sandhanaya launched with 13 parties and 62 factions. Ashumara Singha's accuser Adarsha Khandana arrested. Is a disease spreading among paddy plantations caused by state-issued urea? Farmers concerned.
News First, Newsline. Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Chathuranga Abeysinghe, the Executive Committee member from the NPP. Now then, we have to tell you this. We reel through a lot of crises that Sri Lanka is going through right now. But you know what? To the lasting shame of all of us here in Sri Lanka, two of our former presidents have been sanctioned by the Canadian government. That is terrible news. Not enough, as they say, that we are having our various other crises, and now we have this system where the Canadians have named, amongst others, both Gotabaya and Mahinda Rajapaksa, and they want them to be held accountable. What a sad state of affairs that is. But the government has quickly jumped on that bandwagon, and the foreign minister has summoned the acting head of the Canadian embassy in Colombo. I wish they would summon all the economists and all the planners who caused this blessed mess in our country and hold them accountable, and perhaps put them all on one island and keep them there so that we can fix our country without them.
So for us, I think that's what I was trying to tell also, right? So this country has gone from corruption to corruption, and one party saving the other party, another party saving another party. Now, the viewers here also need to understand, we are talking about $100 billion in debt, 53 billion external debt, 47 million, like another 50 billion internal debt. What did we do? Right, I'm from apparel industry. For us to put up a factory, it will cost us only about $5 to $8 million.
So what did they do with the money? Where did the money go?
That's what I'm saying. So which industry was it invested? Yes, probably the infrastructure would have been done, but if you calculate all the infrastructure that's been done, including the ports, including the roads, including the highways, it will only amount to about $27 billion, even with commissions. Where did the money go? So if we are not ready as citizens to hold these people accountable, at any case, right? It's not, maybe the presidents may have, escape, but elsewhere, if we don't bring a regime that can hold the people who are accountable for the mess, we cannot expect a better country in future, because it's a precedence, right? I save you, you save me, I save you, you save me.
The cycle keeps going on.
So the biggest problem is this country is not that we don't have policy. You ask anybody educated in this country how to fix this country for us, they'll have a plan, right?
But these people don't have a plan.
No, they do have.
But I'm saying
so they do have plans to keep this country poor as much as they
so
can.
that's their
That's a plan. So the plan is, basically this country is very rich in many ways. If you take water, this will be the only place that will have groundwater in 2030. If you take the sea route, one road, one belt, without us China cannot do anything. So we are strategically located, rich with assets, and everybody wants this, right? So how this acquisition happens is through economy now. If you don't have a strong economy, if you don't have reserves, if you don't have a development in the pace of other countries are developing, you are always vulnerable for so many things. So this is what Ranil Wickremesinghe's mandate has been in 2002, and it has been done very different way by Mahinda Rajapaksa and them. This country is taken to a place where that we don't have any strength. Our sovereignty is in risk. There's a plan. So the assets and the money that was created, even every year we create $56 billion. And where does that go? Education has not improved. Rural life has not improved. 38 lakhs, that means 3.8 million families are at food crisis. That means their earnings are not enough to eat, right? So this is a system they kind of protect. So there's a blessing to protect that, and there are these leaders who has ruled us and who's still willing to rule us, has this. So we have to fix two things for us. One is we need to end corruption with there's no questions asked, right? So if you are ready to vote anybody who has ruled early, I think that's the cardinal mistake we will do again, because they can't bring anybody else to law because they are also corrupt. Second is we need to have a national plan that not only the government, the private sector, the industry, all has to agree, which aligns to our education policy, which aligns to our health policy, which aligns to or a new foreign policy, that we would run this country for another 5 to 10 years on one go. Until that, we will see small fixes. So small fixes are not going to bring us out because we are so much down. It would have helped in 2015, 17, 18, 19, but now no more for us. We are just dead, right? So we have to come out in a different strength, different hope, different life, and that cannot be given by whoever has ruled so far.
So the problem is critical?
Yes.
The NPP must have done their sums by now and done their intelligence and so on. What is it looking like?
So we have a plan for us. We have been telling this basically for the last 8 months, that there is two things to fix. First, we need a government of people's mandate, right?
Yeah.
Because any government newly going to get elected will propose the country what is their plan, right? So NPP does have a plan. I'm pretty sure other parties also should propose a plan. So then the people will vote for that with the trust and hope that that will get executed. So any new regime would get 1 year, 2.5 years of absolute support. You saw for us that when Gotabaya came in, kids went on streets, colored the walls, because there was so much of hope that this country would change. So
there was a genuine
so
hope.
For us, that's the biggest number one thing. So if we are to come into power, we think we will have that support from the public as well as the people who are living abroad, who's dying looking at this country, that they need to help, and how can they help. That's number one. And in terms of our positions of where we need to go, we need to have this clear plan with priority industries. We call them priority industries for us, 5 priority industries. The IT sector is a priority industry.
Yeah.
We are at 1.6 billion, and we have now developed a plan to bring it to 3 billion with the industry. We have got industry input.
Yeah.
We worked with the tourism industry. It's currently at early 2018, it was at 4.4, but we have a potential of about $8 billion. And then we have the apparel industry on their own reaching 5 billion without any government support. We can obviously take a larger portion of the world with value addition. We have so much of agricultural exports, there's no value addition. And also we have the port services, which again will be one of our priority industries with NPP, that we would try to bring more marine services back into our ports. So we will tell this country these are our 5 to 6 industries. We will reform the education sector to fit to that. We will bring technology and English to all the children in this country. Within next 3 to 4 years, we will create employees who would go out of this country not as labor, not as going in unsafe jobs that they are going to.
Maybe they'll go out as coding engineers.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to when they're educated, when there's enough manpower, that should be, those are the 5 or 6 things for us that we would tell the country this is what we're going to do. And governance, good governance, discipline, transparency.
Yeah.
So whoever comes to power, not only NPP, we have to do these basics first, right? And what would be really different with NPP is we will have a national plan, and that national plan will be communicated. It will be KPI driven, and the government will be responsible for us. If we say IT industry should be 3 billion, if the government can't make it, the government should go. We never had a government or a ruler who's responsible for industry. As they are responsible for citizens, the government should be responsible for each of the SMEs, each of the business that happens, because now we looks like SMEs is problem of the starter, like the entrepreneur. Now entrepreneur has to fix himself in the crisis. So we are losing production at a heavy level, at a rate. So the difference between NPP and whatever who has been ruled is that we would take this seriously in terms of production and service and the rule of law. That will be our difference, and I think with that the people will align, the industry will align. There will be a lot of foreign FDIs would come because there's transparency, there's a plan, because who would come for us if the country, if I ask you what is our next 10 years plan, if Ranil Wickremesinghe says I don't have plan.
Well, he did. He said...
Who would bring FDIs? Would you invest in a country if you have $10 billion?
But he has no plan, but he's talking about plans that will transform and rebuild a totally new economy.
What is that?
Well, we don't know. That's something in his head, and I don't know what's in his head.
We don't know.
So you don't know it either.
Yeah, so the thing is this, where his direction is very clear. So he is basically having certain elements in head that this country is not liberal enough, or that he needs to kind of do whatever IMF says. It's not whatever IMF says for us. IMF is a institute that will help at a crisis. I think most of the developing worlds would have got support, but all those countries had a plan. That for that plan we should get support. But if you are not, if your plan is only discussed with IMF, not with the public, how would you implement it? How would you can you do a change in any of your organizations if you are not clear enough, if you're not communicating your plan to your workforce, you can't.
You can't.
So basically we are saying there needs to be a big regime change, a system change.
Yeah.
And that system change can be pulled in with the election. And as citizens who believe in democracy, we all know we can't fight in street and topple governments. We need the election. That is where the change would come, and NPP is very hopeful for that.
All the very best to the NPP and to you, Chathuranga Abeysinghe. Thank you very much for being on on Newsline Live. Take care. It's now time for the primetime news, and as always, God bless you all.